Welcome back, everyone, to the Talking with Spencer program. I'm your host, Spencer Klein. I'm here with a very special guest in front of me today, a good friend, prospective entrepreneur, my ex-roommate, Mr. John Smith. How are you?
First off, man, I want to say R.I.P. to Nipsey Hussle, man.
Yeah.
That's just how I want to start this off. Like,
it's a good way to start this off.
Rest in paradise, man. It doesn't matter if you knew the guy or not. For me, you will always know where you were at when you got the news that he had passed.
It's definitely like a 9/11 type thing.
Yeah.
It's when I have to describe to people like who is Nipsey Hussle in comparison, because there are a lot of people surprisingly who did not know who he was, and I'm not going to sack him for it.
Yeah.
But it would be equivalent of Snoop Dogg dying.
Yeah.
Yeah. It wasn't like. It was a big thing.
It was. My only regret dealing with the music and the entrepreneurial side of Nipsey was that I didn't give him the respect and the ear that I should have when he was alive. Mm-hmm. I really should have taken the time out and actually listened and watched, because all of the things that he was doing when he passed came out into the open. Everything was discreet. It was secret. How he was moving, you never knew what he was doing, but you knew he was about his business. The guy owned all his masters. Like, that should say enough. Another thing that should say enough is that he sold a mixtape for $100. Like, that's also enough for me to give this guy the opportunity that he should have got, and his time is coming up in his 12 years of, him being on top. To me,
what's good about him is that he didn't, when it came out that all these things were going about what he was doing in the background of his community in Crenshaw,
mm-hmm.
in Los Angeles, he didn't talk about it to a point of pompous arrogance.
Yeah.
Which it seems like, I don't want to name names here, but it seems like if someone else did this, they would post it all over social media in order to get some type of clout for it. And you can really respect him for that.
Yeah, like, he really was about his work. He didn't pay attention to what anybody else was doing. All he was doing was focusing on himself. And I remember, because after he had passed, I remember it like it was yesterday. Like, it was most recent. I'm saying it like it's a long time ago, but I went to Kansas City on a business trip. And when I got the news that he had passed, the first thing I did was go to YouTube. I went to YouTube and I looked at all his past interviews, right? And all I did was study him. Like, I just studied the things that he was saying, how he went about certain things, because he didn't say it out loud or he didn't post it up on social media, but if you interviewed and you asked him the questions, he'll tell you the truth. He'll tell you what was going on. I think he was talking about being on the block, right? And he was like, there's no way I'm going to make $100 million being on the block. And if I do make $100 million, I'm going to either be dead or in jail. And like a light bulb went off. Like, wow, this cat really knew how to be innovative and create an idea and get himself off the block and utilize his mentality and to give back to others. And that's one of the reasons why I went to Crenshaw and Slauson. I went.
Did you go the day of, or did you went a couple of days after?
I went a couple of days after. I think it was like a week after I went, because I was still in Kansas City after he had passed, and I got back, and it was just sitting on my heart, man. It was just like, what can I do? And for me, the best thing to do was to be a presence, to feel the energy, and I went, and it was a lot of people still, and it was a line. I think I was in line for about an hour before I could even see the area of where the marathon was, where he had passed. And even then, taking us the route that they took us to see where he had passed in the marathon, they took us up the alley, that same alley of which the guy, after he shot him, when he fled the scene through the alley, that was the alley that they walked us up. So just walking that alley is just like,
it's pretty surreal.
Yeah, it was.
Did they let you inside the store?
No, I think the store has been shut down for a little bit. I think if you want if you want to get anything that's the marathon right now at this time, I think you have to order it.
Like online or something?
Yeah, you got to order online.
Yeah, it seems like it came out of nowhere. But
Yeah.
at the same time, these type of things are normal.
Yeah,
and
man.
they shouldn't be. That's the thing.
And it's tough too. It's tough dealing with stuff like that, because you would think, in my eyes, I'm like, okay, maybe our community will kind of calm down after this. But then you hear about it somewhere else, and then you hear about another place that has nothing to do with California, but it happens in another state. I'm not from California, but I still have peers in Indiana that still go through the same stuff, and it's tough having to hear those kind of conversations within my own community. And that's why I felt obligated to go. I just wanted to feel that presence. I wanted to feel that. I even brought a candle. I set a candle down, and I paid my respects, even though I wasn't an avid fan as I should have been, but I still gave my respect. So just being around that was enough for me to come back with the sense of gathering myself and figuring out how does my marathon continue? Like, where do I go from here now? That's what that did for me. I started to question myself. The backside of it for me was like, this man was a good man. I mean, of course he came from the hood, but like, so what? Like, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. Like, he was finishing in a tremendous way. And this is where my second guess and my animalistic ways come in, where I start to want to survive rather than live. And it's like, if a good man like that can just die off of something so small, I don't know when my time is coming. So that kind of scares me. So that puts me on the defensive end of people who I interact with, because I don't know how you may take something, or you might try and take my life based off of something that I say that may rub you the wrong way, especially dealing with how we grew up in our communities and stuff. It's not always the same.
Exactly. I remember dealing with maybe not personally, because I moved out of what we consider the inner city when I was very young.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember when I was maybe around 8 or 9, I went to one of those like old school like Pentecostal type churches in San Bernardino, and I remember one day like it was just quiet, and I don't remember why it was quiet, but apparently like one of the evangelist's son was killed in a gunfight the day before. And we didn't talk about it, but we all knew why. So it's just,
how do you feel about gun violence? Like, what's your take?
gun violence in general, or just gang violence as a whole? Because I feel like we can have two different topics about that.
Yeah, we we can.
Yeah.
My whole perspective about gangs has changed as well. Like, yeah,
In the recent times?
yeah, like since this Nipsey stuff, bro. Like, his own mans took him out. Like,
okay,
when I mean his own mans, like, y'all, these guys rep the same gang.
Mm-hmm.
The defensive end is to defend against the opposing gang. How do you respond when it's one of your own? And I'm like, well, what's the point? What are we gang banging for then?
Okay, well, on that note, I think about because I went down the rabbit hole looking at videos of Nipsey Hussle after he passed too.
Mm-hmm.
And what I found out is that, well, Snoop Dogg is also part of this life. And there are people, the Long Beach City Crips, were about to go after him and kill him because they said he left the community. So I don't know the motive of Eric Holder, guy that killed Nipsey
Yeah.
Hussle. But it feels eerily similar to what they're about to do to Snoop Dogg.
Well, I don't know a whole lot about the gangs here in California, but I think they have like certain sections, but as a whole, it's all one. But then there's certain areas that rep something different, but they all govern under the same
Generally,
body.
yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And I watched the interview, and like I said, like I'm like, what's the point of like gang banging? Like, why do I need to gang bang against anybody else if my own, like I'll scrap with my own, like I'll have it out with my own. Like at this point, I just need to represent myself and my own brand and do my own thing. Because if I'm coming to y'all for safety or a feeling to be wanted, you know, and to have that brotherly love, how am I getting that if you'll turn on me in a second or you'll be envious? Because that's the only thing I can draw out of this conclusion of this. Like, you're envious, like you're jealous, you're upset. Your ego has been tampered with someone saying something in a certain way.
I mean, that's the only logical conclusion we can go to.
Like, you're embarrassed. Like, you had to be that embarrassed to want to go get a gun. Here's the thing that messes me up. You went, ate, because apparently he went to go get something to eat. Got something to eat.
Wait, in between.
Yeah, like got something to eat, left, went to go get the gun, came back. So you mean to tell me you held on to that anger the entire time, came back, and went crazy? Who, like, it's just ignorance, man. That's ignorant to me. To be that upset.
I don't know. I've been thinking about it a little bit, and it kind of makes me think, do people who make it out, do they have an obligation to go back to where they came from and lift up the community? I would say no, they don't. But if they don't, they get called a sellout.
Yeah. To me, it depends on how you living. It depends on how you live in your life.
Can you explain that?
So, if you make it out, right? So, I'm a rapper, right? I rap about gangs. I rap about violence. I rap, you know, the typical rapper, right? Kodak Black rapping. I make it out. I get a good deal. I'm making money. I'm still living that life. People are going to get envious. They're going to get jealous. You came up on some cash. You walking around with 40,000 cash. I'm going to think about robbing you.
I feel like at that point, that's where a lot of artists see like a shift in their music, when they stop rapping about, you know, like gang stuff and stuff like that. That's where I see a big switch, because they realize they can't profit off that anymore, and if they do, it's very dangerous.
It's really sketchy to try and shift because you don't know if your fan base is going to feel it or not. So you don't want to mess up the money no more, right?
Exactly.
So you got to continue this facade even though you're not living it. Like, yeah, like Nip, he said certain things, but majority of his information that he was giving in his music was motivation. It was inspirational.
Yeah.
Like, he shifted it. It wasn't, he'll give you little tidbits in there just so you don't forget. Like, don't forget where I come from. But then he'll shift back and like, let me show you how to really do it. Like, I'm not gonna be in the projects all day. In the project hallways talking about being in the projects all day. Like, let me switch the game up.
Yeah, he was really someone that walked the walk and talked the talk.
Yeah.
And no, it's really sad to have him gone. To the point where I haven't seen, and I hope I don't see, like one person like talk illy of him or has talked illy of him. Like, even, I told you this before, my dad, he doesn't really like hip hop music.
Yeah.
But he was telling me, yeah, you hear about this guy Nipsey Hussle? And I'm like, yeah. And he was like, yeah, he seemed like a really good fellow.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And even the LAPD police chief said we lost a good person in the community. That was wild to me.
That's huge.
Yeah.
That's huge. I think that says a lot. That's it. But to get back to your point, though, or your question about me saying, like, it depends on the the way you are perceived coming out of the hood, you know. I think if you continue that way of that lifestyle, that way of living, then you'll reap the benefits of what comes with that. I won't say the benefits. You'll reap what you sow. As far as like the gang banging and stuff, and then you rap about the gang banging and stuff. But if you utilize the predicament of where you come from to help feed you and get you out, and then you change the narrative, right? If you change the narrative and then go back and do something different and show a different way, that's a whole totally different aspect. Those are two totally different, to me, those are two totally different playing fields. Mm-hmm. So it depends on what side you want to be on at the end. If you got a game plan or if you just living in the moment. And that is a big difference. If you got a game plan or if you living in the moment. You living in the moment for jewelry, cars, clothes, or are we talking financial stability? Are we talking about financial wealth? Your last name living on, something that your kids won't ever have to worry about again. Those are the questions that you have to start asking yourself.
I think there's starting to be a big change in how entertainers being a broad term, like sports stars, mm-hmm. rappers, hip hop artists, dancers, etc., how they view wealth in the community. There's this good Chris Rock. Have you heard that stand up where he says difference between rich and wealthy? Yeah. So for those of you who haven't heard, Chris Rock did a stand up where he says Shaquille O'Neal is rich. He makes a lot of money.
The man who signs his checks
is wealthy. And in a way, yeah, like he's not wrong. Like that's completely accurate.
Yep.
But I think there's a shift in the paradigm on what is wealth, who has it, and how can we get it upon generations
yep.
to help bridge that divide between the black community and the status quo.
I think the number one thing to bridge that gap right there is ownership. Did
you hear about what Diddy and Jay-Z plan to do?
No.
They plan to launch an app that would give you the locations of every single black business in your area.
I heard about that.
Yeah.
I didn't know when they didn't give like
they would give a lot of
it wasn't like an expectation of a date or anything. I just heard it through the grapevine.
Yeah,
like,
I thought it'd be cool to have that.
That'd be dope. Yeah. Well, the first thing for me was that I invested or started a bank account with a black-owned bank. Like that's where you start. For me, that's in terms of keeping the money in and developing savings where I can create ownership.
You want to plug that bank for us?
One United.
Okay.
Is the bank. Created a checking account. I didn't get a debit card or nothing. I just want to be able to put money in. Just keep putting money in, and before I know it, I'll have enough savings to be able to try and do something. Try and get some type of ownership, and venture out and do a whole bunch of other things. That's my plan. That amongst building this credit. This credit is tough, man. I'm telling you.
Oh, yeah. Don't even get me started on that.
On a positive note, I just got approved for a credit card.
Well, that's good.
Capital One, Quicksilver. You guys should apply as soon as possible because they give it out like it's candy. So, yeah, that's my second credit card, but I'm trying to build some credit. That's my number one goal right now of 2019, building credit. I want to build some credit and pay off some of these loans. School is over. It's time to be an adult. It sucks.
I feel like it's a beautiful madness,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be worth it all. In the end, it'll be worth it.
If you do it right.
Right, yeah. Exactly. It's got to be strategic. I don't want to be so impulsive like how I used to. I know I can't look at some sneakers anymore and be like, I'm grabbing those. Mm-hmm. Like I've created 3 bank accounts, right, with Wells Fargo, and the 3 bank accounts are named. I named them. One is needs, one is wants, and the other is savings. So when I get paid, I divide the percentages of my needs, wants, and savings, and I distribute my paycheck amongst those 3 accounts. So if I see some sneakers and I want them, then I go to my wants account. And if I got it, I'm going to get it.
If you don't,
It's over. The needs goes towards the groceries, gas, braces, you know, those kind of expenses, insurance, that type of stuff. But if I don't got it in the wants account, it's over with. That is the self-discipline that I'm on right now.
I feel like the problem with a lot of credit cards is that people tend to overuse them to the point of they think it's money when it's not money. It's credit.
Yeah.
And it's credit that you eventually have to pay back with interest. And that's just the concept that people just don't get in mind, which is why I had this friend. He just signed this contract with a 32% APR rating, like first day, and he already has like 3 in the hole, 3K.
Oh my
And
God.
I'm just like, that is a nightmare. Just imagine, like,
What was his limit, first of all?
I don't know. He didn't tell me.
Oh my God.
It's just like, number one, like, there are ways to get around like an APR rating for at least the first year.
Mhm.
But to get a card, already have an APR attached to it. It's your first credit card, and then have to pay like 32% per year on top of that.
See, my first credit card was a secured card with Wells Fargo.
Yeah.
So
You told me about that.
yeah, and my limit was, you know, I was like lucky to get approved for this. This was huge for me this was a milestone in my life, and my limit was 300. But I gave myself the limit. It wasn't, the bank didn't give me the limit. So whatever I used, it was my money. And even then, once you understand credit, like when you get a credit card, you start to research, you start to understand. I started building credit from this secured card. What I didn't know is that the utilization, it was important too.
The rate.
So my utilization, you're only supposed to utilize 30% of whatever your limit is. So if my limit was 300, I could only spend $90. And then you figure out the tricks and trade that like boost your credit score. So you pay half. Whenever your statement is due, you pay half 2 weeks before, and then you pay the rest of it like 3 days before the actual statement is due, when your credit card is due. And that'll boost your credit score maybe about 20 to 25 points. So I'm like, okay, cool. At first when I got the card, I'm like, it's my money. I can swipe whenever I want. Like there is no emergency. Like that's not even in my head right now. So when I'm calculating how much is in my bank account, I'm also calculating my credit limit because it's my $300. I gave myself $300, and I was looking at it all wrong. So I had to get better with that. So my utilization has to come down a little bit more. This new card they gave me a limit of 1,000.
Okay, that's not bad.
But so the utilization is 300.
Mhm.
I don't even know what my APR. I need to look at that.
It's in your contract. They should email you a contract telling you how much your APR is.
What you have? What Chase?
Freedom.
What's your APR?
It's 22.49 after the first 15 months.
I think my APR is 26.
Yeah.
Which
That sounds about right for the first
Is that cool?
card. Yeah, that's
Okay.
great. Yeah.
I think mine is 26. I started my online account, and I think I remember seeing 26.
Do you remember if it's immediate or is after the first 15 months?
I think it's
probably
yeah,
after
after
a
the
certain
first
time,
yeah.
because if it wasn't,
It's after the first 15 months, and I know once I pay it on time for the first 5 months, they're going to up the limit.
yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, it's 15 months.
All right, we got to take a quick break. Once we be back, we will continue with the show. We are 22 West Radio, the next wave of K Beach. 22 West Radio is 22westmedia.com and 88.1 FM, KKJZ, HD3, Long Beach, Los Angeles. Welcome back to this program, guys. I'm back here with my
And you know what? While we were talking off air, I think we deserve to give our audience like the backdrop of while we're sitting here today, like while we're talking.
Okay. Well, how far do you want to go back?
Man. Because if we go back
it
too
goes
far,
way back.
yeah, if we go back too far, we'll be here all night. We should just start at the beginning and then speed it up. How's that sound? Okay.
Okay, yeah.
Is that
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can start it off.
Okay,
You want
go.
me? Okay.
Go ahead. Yeah.
So I think it all started when I discovered that you did podcasts, right? Right.
How did you find that out?
I seen your equipment.
You probably saw that, didn't you?
Right.
Yeah.
I seen the mic and I asked you about it and I was wondering like, I had already heard you playing the trumpet, right? And I was like, were you playing the trumpet to the microphone and stuff like that? You were like, no, I have my own podcast. And I was like, dude, that's dope. What's your handle? And you told me, talking with Spence, plug, on SoundCloud, go, you guys.
Yeah, listen to that.
Go listen
please.
to that as soon as possible. And I went to go check you out. And the main thing, I literally reviewed and listened to your podcast. And I was so happy about your podcast because it was informative. And it was informative about politics, right? And I was like, dude, I don't know anything about politics like that. And just to listen to your podcast, it was so informative about the political issues and who was who. It brought me up to speed. It made me feel like I was aware, so that if I had a conversation with anybody, because I listened to your podcast, I was able to have that conversation with other people, and I was grateful for that. So I was like, dude, I'm interested in this guy's podcast. So I began to listen. What was it like? Was it every Tuesday?
It was
every week.
It was every week.
Yeah, it was every
Wednesday.
week. And I was like, "Yo, you come out with a podcast yet?" Like I was a fan.
Yeah,
at
this
that
was true.
point.
This was true. Yeah.
I was a legit fan because I needed to know what was going on out there. Like when I mean informative, like even if you assume that somebody didn't know what a certain word was, what certain terminology was, meaning in the campaign of any runner, like you were legit explaining that to the audience, and I thank you for that.
That means a lot. Thank
for
you.
real, man.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
So I'm from there.
So then it got to a point where you inspired me. So I was like, well, maybe I should get on the show. Like maybe I should get on the show. So I'm like, okay, I need to have, like, me and this guy need to hang out a little bit more, So we started to build a relationship. Cane's Midnight, like we started to talk, chop it up. If there was a function, we was riding together. You know what I mean? Like we then started to understand each other's struggle in life, school, personal, like just whatever it was. We started to understand each other. We started to build a relationship. And then there was this monumental moment. And I'll never forget it. And we still got to get back to this. I'm going to finish. We went skydiving.
I knew you were gonna bring that up.
Oh my!
I knew you were gonna
God.
bring that up.
That was
such a wild day experience. But
it was on a whim, like legit was like, yo.
I didn't think you were serious when you told me we were going skydiving.
I was so serious.
I did not believe you at all.
I legit was like, you know what? I needed a moment. I needed a break because the pressure that life was bringing me was so much that I probably would have imploded. I probably would have just caved in or something. Like it was so bad. I needed a rush. And I was like, what?
Yeah,
who else to do it with?
I'm not gonna lie to you. I kind of needed that,
bro,
because it wasn't okay. So I told you how I went kayaking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wouldn't have gone kayaking if you didn't take me skydiving.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah. So I needed that, and it really pushed me into do like more like outdoor gutsy adventures.
Right.
And next semester I'm taking a class on desert expedition where we have to survive off the land.
See?
In the desert.
You see what that type of stuff brings, man, and that's why, like, I'm so grateful of the relationship that we built as roommates, and for that reason, I don't even consider you a roommate anymore. I consider you like a brother to me.
Yeah, like, so you're like a big brother.
Like you like
yeah.
my family.
Yeah.
Now, So it's like even after it was so monumental to us that I remember you opening up the notebook and you setting it down on the table. It was like, all right, if you have any ideas, write it down in this notebook. And that's what I mean by I need to come back to that. Like, we still have stuff that we need to revisit and actually discuss.
Like, we couldn't talk about all the stuff that he wrote down in that notebook in one podcast.
Oh, yeah.
He's going to have to come back again.
Because there was so much content in the skydive, and the skydive was a moment in time.
Yeah, and I actually documented, like, a lot of that experience, too, in audio.
That was so much, man.
Yeah.
That was so, like, the whole entire experience was just crazy. That was just the most amazing thing. I think we were supposed to do this podcast last week, but I knew for sure, like, man, I got to get in there with Spence. So all today, like, legit, when I woke up, I was like, I'm talking with Spence. Another plug.
What was that?
What's going on?
You hear that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay, whatever. Yeah.
I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, man.
I'm glad.
Yeah. Like, I just knew I had to get in here, man.
Shoot. Well,
So-
I'm glad you're here.
So that's the backdrop of us.
You know how you said listen to my podcast before?
Mm-hmm.
And I think I told you the abstract for the next one I'm trying to do, right?
No.
Basically, what is that? Basically, it's like there's going to be like 16 episodes, and every single episode is an individualized holistic review on a single person running for president of the United States.
What?
Yeah.
That sounds amazing,
Yeah.
man.
It's in the process right now. I don't want to give too many details on it because, ruin the suspense of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you know, I think I told you this, that the mayor of your hometown is running for president?
You told me.
Yeah. No, and here's the thing. He's not doing that bad.
He's doing good.
He's doing pretty good.
When you say doing good, can you explain what doing good is?
Okay, well, in polling, so at the very top is Bernie Sanders.
Mhm.
Right below him is Joe Biden. He's number 3.
Oh, so he's doing that. He's doing that good.
Pretty good, yeah. Like, people are comparing him to, like, the white Obama.
What?
Yeah. Yeah.
What is, like, legit, like, what is he doing? What do you feel that he's doing out there in, like, what is he doing to get that name
Well,
put upon him like that?
if you see, like, a video of him speak, you're going to think the exact same thing. Like, he talks, his cadence, his rhythm, the way he speaks, his voice sounds just like Obama.
Hmm.
And he's young. He's fairly charismatic. I'm not going to vote for him, but I could see why people are attracted to him.
Yeah. Who are you looking at? Like, who do you like in this race?
I like, Bernie Sanders is probably my number 1 pick,
Mhm.
but there are a lot of things that, practically speaking, that can make me not want to vote for him. Like his age,
Yeah.
basically the hate camp that exists outside of Bernie Sanders. Elizabeth Warren, she announced a plan to get rid of student college debt, which I thought was pretty cool. I could
That's
ride on that.
huge.
Yeah, that's really big. I could definitely use that.
Yes, we all can.
Tulsi Gabbard, too. And she's one of the lesser-known candidates.
Mhm.
She's a U.S.-Iraq war veteran. Basically, like, a female version of Bernie Sanders from Hawaii. Very progressive. Against interventions in other countries. I think I could ride on the train, too.
Yeah.
Also, I'm going to get a lot of hate for this. Andrew Yang.
Who is that?
Andrew Yang is a Democratic candidate who is running on the single proposition of universal basic income, which means that he wants to give every single American man, woman, and child $1,000 a year. Just no strings attached, just boom, there you go. In order to offset poverty.
Do you think that would happen if he does that? That will be an offset?
I don't think it will happen if he becomes president, but it is a conversation that needs to happen.
Yeah.
Because so many people are already losing their jobs to, like, automation and stuff.
Mm-hmm. I watched
So-
a video on Facebook of the innovation of machines doing work for actual people, and it was like a 4-minute video. Now think about how many different machines went into a 4-minute video. And these weren't like they showed the machine for like 30 seconds. This was like 5 to 10 seconds of them showing what the machine can do for one objective and then going on to the next to show a whole different machine in a whole different factory doing something totally different. And it was 4 minutes, and I was just blown away. And I showed it to somebody, and somebody said, "That's amazing." And I was like,
That's scary.
"That is not amazing. This is scary."
Yeah.
Like, people are about to lose jobs. I'm like, yo, like that, the factory job for me, in my mind, is going to come to an end. Like, they're going to no longer need people, and it's going to save them money.
Yeah, and it's more of a reason why universal basic income is getting more and more traction. And there are a lot of people that think, oh, it's just welfare, or you're just giving people free money.
What's your argument?
It's not technically about that, against that argument, or, well, again, the automation concern, 1. 2, if you give people the money to give the barely basic necessities, if not that, a little bit less, then they have more time to do the stuff that they want to do.
And is this this stipend of $1,000? Is this a month?
It's a month.
2 weeks.
It's a month. So $12K a year.
I mean,
Yeah, it sounds a little like it's a lot of money. Like, I know, but
depending on where you're located, the cost of living, you can literally do nothing for the rest of your life
Exactly.
and live off of
Exactly.
that $1,000 a month.
and theoretically, I think that should be fine. Hear me out. If we have a universal basic income, there are going to be slums. There is no choice. But it's better to have slums than people on the streets.
Mm-hmm.
So if you build these, have you seen Ready Player One?
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, it's going to be a society like that, where people just sit in their ass all day playing video games, living off that $1,000 a month.
But they're not on the streets.
They're not in the streets. So it would, at the same time, raise our standard of living while keeping people off the streets.
Right.
So I think it's inevitable, whatever you're going to do.
I mean, I would rather have people with a secure place where they can lay their heads, even if they aren't doing anything, if they don't have a particular skill set to make them money. I'd rather them have that than to literally have nothing at all and be laying on the sidewalk.
Exactly. And the question is, more so, it's not just, well, Andrew Yang's proposal, which I do not agree with this at all, is that he's going to use the stipend to supplement other forms of welfare. So if you get $12K a year, you're not going to get Medicare or Medicaid or SSI or
Because all
food
of the
stamps.
stuff that the $1,000 that he's going to give you is going
can
to go.
get you potentially, yeah. That's the problem with me.
Well, my
Yeah.
other issue is that, okay, let's say you do give these people like $1,000, a person that's off the street, they don't have a bank account, right? What if they're an addict? So now, instead of helping them, you're just enhancing the issue of their drug habit.
See, that's the
So
thing.
now I got $1,000 and I'm a junkie. What do I go get high some more?
You can say the same thing about welfare, though. That's the thing.
In terms of what?
People who get welfare checks, they could be junkies.
True. You got a point.
Yeah.
You got a point. Is there like a level of to be on welfare though? Is there like a certain level that you have to be at as an income-based home to be approved though? Because like you can't go into the welfare office with nothing and be like, I want welfare, and they're gonna be like, okay, we got you.
There's some, I know there's some states, some red states, that actually require welfare recipients to be drug tested.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of that, you need to be actively looking for work.
Yeah.
Like,
There's certain
for a couple
stipulations
months.
to get approved
yeah, to
of
get
welfare.
a welfare check.
And then that's what I'm saying. Like, is there certain stipulations that's going to come behind this $1,000, or are you just giving $1,000?
No,
like,
it's just no strings attached, $1,000 a month.
like when you want the money to go into these other like facilities that would help these people, like fund these other facilities, and instead of paying these people that are homeless or who have a condition in a certain way of mental health, pay these organizations to bring these people in and help them in a way, like paying more therapists, paying to expand these facilities for more rooms for people to be off the street so that they can get the proper help. When you want that more than just have $1,000 just to have a person just have $1,000 and then not know what to do with it. Because if no one has a plan in life and you give me $1,000, I'm just gonna mess it off. Like I'm just gonna throw it away, and I'm gonna keep throwing it away until I'm gone. Like that's an issue for me, because for me, in the most personal way, I had my father was addicted to drugs. So I knew what my dad did. My dad was a functioning junkie. And what I mean by functioning, like he knew his days where he could get high and where he couldn't get high. Mm-hmm. And he still was functional. He was still able to function enough where he could talk to you and you would never be able to tell that he was high, right? He was like not gone that far. And he'd go to bed, wake up and go straight to work like nothing ever happened. Or then he'd go missing for a couple of days and then come home and then lay down for a couple of hours, get up and go to work. Like if he can mess off a paycheck, think about if he mess off a paycheck on top of $1,000 on it. So now I'm thinking about not only the people off the streets, but the people who can still function on drugs too.
Yeah, so it's more of a moral question on top of that too. It's not just should we give people money because it's going to be for the greater good of society, but there are certain individuals that we know are going to take this for granted.
The evaluation would have to be very extensive.
Yes, and there is not enough research done on UBI in order for it to be implemented. It's going to be a minute.
Oh, man.
So we basically just got maybe 10 more minutes or so.
Okay.
You have anything you wanted to bring up before we get off?
We were talking about this before we started. Since we're ex-roommates now, right?
Yeah.
Since, all of this, when did you move out? When did I move out? Last year? About a year ago, right?
Yeah, sounds about right.
Let's talk about what we've been doing since. So what have you been up to up until now?
You want to go first or should I go first?
You got it.
Okay. I moved to my current place in December, around the end of 2018. Basically, since then, I started turning the audio podcast into video. I told you about this. I got an internship at the courthouse. I still work at the rec. I still work at the parking place. I do absolutely nothing all day. It's great. On top of that, I recently got accepted into this program, the Lex Fellowship, in Madrid, Spain, over the summer. But I actually just switched up. I'm going in the winter now.
Okay.
So I don't got to worry about.
So we're not worried about.
Yeah, I'm not worried about
the 900. What was it? $900.
It was $900 due
the end of this week
in
or something.
7 hours, and I'm like, I cannot have this money, and it was $3,000 due the next week. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
I'm not worrying about that. So they're like, okay, yeah, we'll just put your application in the winter. You should be fine. Just tell us you talk to Les, and you should be able to go. I'm like, okay. And Les, if you're watching this, thank you so much. I know you watch this podcast, so shout out to Les.
Man, shout out to Les.
Yeah.
Looking out for my little
Thank
brother,
you.
man.
Yeah, because
we were sitting down talking at your house about this.
Yeah,
and
I was stressed the hell out.
Bro,
like, there's no way.
You were so stressed. We were creating plan A, plan B, plan C. Like, okay, if this doesn't work out, what we gonna do?
Oh, gosh.
How we gonna do this? And I was even like giving you ideas on how you could raise the money. Like, bro, this is what you need to do. You gotta go. You gotta do this. You gotta do that. Like, we was coming up with ideas with the Ace Pineapples flowing, right?
Oh my gosh, there is no way in hell I would make. They wanted 3.5. Yeah, 3.5K.
Jeez.
in a week.
Man, oh
Because
man.
I had the interview, and they're like, all right, you're accepted. And I'm like, all right, cool. All right. So when's the money due? And they said, it's due on the 1st.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, what?
What? You said what?
What? And they were
I didn't
like-
hear you.
And I was like, okay, all right. There's no worries about that. I'll
Right.
go to the financial aid office and then get on my hands and knees. They're like, we don't do financial aid during the summer.
Yep.
I'm like, what the hell, man? Go to the state abroad office. They said the same thing.
Not during the summer.
And then I asked them, yo, like, do you guys have any, like, internal scholarships or something I could take? And they're like, no, we don't. But we do realize we gave you this opportunity at the absolute last minute. I was the last person they interviewed.
So it's not your fault for you
Yeah,
to be
so-
as behind as you
Yeah,
are
so
financially.
I can't really feel any guilt,
Yeah.
you know. But yeah,
Did they give you like any cushion, or they was like, we understand? That's probably why they gave you that winter. Just talk to Les,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you're good.
yeah. I assume that's why.
Not assume, yeah, just guesstimating on why that probably happened.
Yeah. But
So Spain, that's huge.
yeah, it is. To be
And-
honest, like I don't know what to expect at all.
Go in with the open mind. Like
That's what I feel.
expect nothing at all. Like just go in there with just a complete, just press the refresh button and just like go in and say to yourself that I know nothing at all.
I feel like it's gonna be one of those experiences that I'm bound to need, or I'm gonna look back on and tell myself, I needed that trip because it was a very integral point in a change in my life. I know I'm gonna come back a changed person for sure. How I'm gonna see the world after that, that's for me to find out.
I think what you should do after you graduate, download you what's the stone, the language,
Rosetta Stone.
Rosetta Stone. Study the language and go over there and be around in that culture so that you can advance more with the language, so that when you come back, you may be fluent. You may be fluent enough where you can be bilingual. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when you get into that field, you can throw in a resume bilingual.
Bilingual. Yeah,
Then
that'd be really useful.
then your stock just increased by that much. Now you're marketable. So if anything, if I recommend anything, if you do go, start off while you're here now by teaching yourself with the Rosetta Stone. Invest in yourself. I think Rosetta Stone is like $89.95 or something.
That's nothing. Mm.
Start studying. I mean, and then get over there into the culture. Submerge yourself in that culture. And then boom, you'll be good.
It sounds like a plan.
For real.
It's a lot to go over.
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah. All right. So that concludes this episode of Talking with Spencer. I'd like to thank John for being a great guest on the show.
Always.
And if anything, follow me on Twitter at Talking with Spence, capital TALKIN, capital WTH, capital SPENCE. And follow me at YouTube at Talking with Spencer and on Instagram at Talking with Spencer as well. And I will see you guys all soon.
You got a lot of handles, man.
I do.
Let me
Yeah.
plug myself.
All right,
Hold
go
on.
ahead. Yeah.
Let me plug.
Yeah.
Yo, follow me on
You wanna look into the camera
what is
right
it? Instagram and Twitter. JC_Smith1. Again, Instagram and Twitter. JC_Smith1. I appreciate you for having me, Spence.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
We out.
That was actually dope.